Thanks, Emily, for that introduction. We're going to talk about the customer experience, how integrating your CRM with a few different applications, whether it's the marketplace, the Zoho suite, or we'll get into the depth and the weeds of using our APIs and how that may be useful to your organization. First, we're going to talk about how complex the business landscape may be, how customers may engage with you and your organization. That can be through many different channels, websites, email, social media. Now we're using text more than ever, whether it's support, sales, whatever it may be. This journey typically presents a challenge for a lot of people because some sales works in CRM, support may work in desk, finance may be working in QuickBooks. So without identifying what data movement goes where to create a cohesive journey and experience for our customers, that kind of presents itself as a fragmented, hey, I'll get back to you. I don't really know what's going on and I have no context. What that typically leads to is for somebody saying, hey, I don't really like working with them. Every time I talk to them, I have to re-explain my situation. They don't really know who I am as a customer, even though I've been with them for 5 years, and things like that. Typically, like I mentioned, and we'll talk about it in a minute, that presents itself through the data layer in different silos, where the information available to different teams isn't there. So when we talk about like what's in your CRM, like I mentioned, it's all about data. As we move through different AI applications, understanding how to leverage our data, it's better to have it in one instance or one source of truth, one system of record, which typically anchor to the CRM because it's so extensible via the API, because we have a large marketplace for that application, and because a lot of vendors typically see that within our suite as a source of truth. And then we'll talk about how to leverage these things to have a good impact within your organization. Um, so anyway, like I mentioned before, the interconnected experience moves beyond having like multiple channels for you and your customers. It's the ability to take this multi-channel approach, and no matter where that touch point is, and create the cohesive experience, to create the personalized journey, irrespective of where they actually are, whether that's chat, whether that's at this type of event. Or whether that's like social media and things like that. We take that approach, and like I mentioned, we take our data and we put it into a fluid transfer between applications, again, create that cohesive experience for the customer, but for our internal teams to have no loss of context. And I kind of hear a little feedback, and we'll wait until that goes away. Anyway, to accomplish this, that's getting louder. To accomplish this, we need to unify our different teams through that data layer, whether it is sales or marketing or support, whatever it may be. So like I mentioned, that we will walk through is Zoho CRM. And like I mentioned before, we're going to take a look at three different layers. So it's going to start at the top, the integration layer with different Zoho applications in Zoho One. The second layer will go ahead and take care of our marketplace, which has many different extensions. And we'll talk about many different third parties that we're going to work with. And then we'll take a look at the very deep level, and that's the data layer. So anyone who's like a data scientist or integrator, sorry, you're going to have to wait like 35 minutes to get to the meat and potatoes of this session for yourself. So anyway, creating that connected experience through those different layers and different channels, we allow sales to increase growth, because once again, the bridge between marketing, the social media, and the lead to cash process or lead to convert process, you actually get a lot more context and you can sell what's relevant to that person. So beyond that, customer retention and support allows, like I mentioned, them to understand maybe what product they purchased, maybe the journey that they've taken before they've gotten to customer support, convert to cash. And then we also have improved data quality. There's no longer a situation that we encounter where finance or support or sales is asking, hey, what's the most updated email? What's the most updated address for this person? I can't call them. Why do we have the wrong phone number? And that's because we integrate it, like I mentioned, through CRM on every level. And typically, if you look that across the band with the internally within your organization, you'll typically receive a significant boost in productivity because you're no longer walking between offices or chatting to figure something out. It's all available in your CRM. So, like I mentioned, within Zoho One, we do have a few applications. The most critical ones that I encounter every day when providing a solution is Zoho Books, uh, marketing automation, or in a lot of folks' cases, campaigns, and Zoho Desk. So these again give you a very comprehensive, the ability to have a comprehensive strategy and how you actually touch the customer. Again, it's information and teams that will be interacting with the customer. So we take those three and integrate them in. So, like I mentioned, the Zoho Books, there's often a challenge we see, especially B2B to C, trying to understand the relationship of who's getting billed, but who's using the product. Where do we send the invoice? It could be a multi-location situation, and it's come up more often in my job day to day because now people working remote, now people actually getting acquired, and the M&A process occurring. It's like, hey, I had this account, and as it turns out, they've grown a lot, but my relationship in books isn't up to date with the CRM because the salesperson's doing more stuff. So again, at its core, I won't show the screenshot because I'm not going to sit here and go through settings. But books is our first foray into sales to cash and leveraging that. Now, the marketing automation is the second most common thing I encounter, and it's oftentimes what communication has been sent to my customers, how often have they been touched, but more importantly, why are they getting mad at me because I'm reaching out to them after our marketing team has reached out to them with the same information? So again, you have the ability to integrate MA or campaigns with the CRM and understand, hey, what touches have been, performed on that customer? Have they engaged with the email? Have they even opened it? It does give you a lot of context there. And then, like I mentioned in Desk, that's gonna be the third thing there. When after everything's said and done, cash to close or close to cash, you have the ability to support them over time. And there's always a situation of, I don't know what they bought. I don't know what they were, sold. What was the contract? They're claiming you said this, you said that. Zoho Desk integrates with CRM as well. So it gives your support agent the ability to live either in the CRM and manage the ticket, or Desk allows you to see the information, invoices, deals, all communication and notes that a salesperson may have. So those are the fundamental three that I typically talk about and usually pitch to folks like, hey, what are we using? How can we integrate this? And they're all out of the box. But yeah, so these are the first three that and they're easiest to set up. That's why I brought them up, within this presentation. Understand, hey, those are the three main teams that are customer facing, and those are the three main teams that can get the biggest impact from integrating directly. Like I mentioned, beyond having the ability to have context, you also unlock the ability to reduce friction from close to cash. Because when I sell something, you can set up automations to automatically create invoices out of the box within Zoho Books. It's no longer emailing or sending automated emails for someone to make an invoice, or it's not automatically having the accountant or the bookkeeper coming in and be like, okay, let me put these items on the order. The order goes directly from CRM right into Zoho Books, and that can be automatically sent to the customer as an invoice. Very easy. Um, Also, if you're a salesperson, on the other hand, on the flip side, if I'm trying to resell a product or we have a new product line and I want to pitch it to a customer because I think it'd be a good fit, I'm not going to approach that customer if I know they have an outstanding invoice. So it's not going to be a situation where you're actually front loading the sales process and in our accounting team's like, hey, they've got outstanding bills. I don't even know why we're trying to work with them. There's a bunch of AR here. I want to go ahead and stop. So it allows you, again, to give that transparency to both the sales and the finance team. And then the next one. All right, books and CRM. These are the modules that sync out of the box. And like I mentioned, we're up here. We're at the top of the ocean. Contacts, accounts, products, and vendors allows you to have that transparency between all those core modules. Now we can talk about how to do beyond these core modules. In the third half of my presentation. No one got that joke. All right, there's only two halves, so the third half doesn't exist. There we go. There we go. It's like I'm in the accounting track again. Um, There we go. Thanks, guys. But anyway, we sync these because it answers a question. Who am I working with? Like I mentioned, where do I send the bill? Who are we buying the product from? Do we have it on hand? All these questions come up so often in my day to day that we typically address this just by saying, hey, integrate by default. you can attack the lowest hanging fruit here and give everyone transparency. So, like I mentioned, send out the invoice, get paid immediately. Then, whoever needs to actually deliver a product or service, if you're using retainer invoices within books or deposit invoices, right out the gate, they could begin the project. There's no, hey, we're going to straddle the line, wait till they pay, let me know when they pay, and then I'll roll a truck. Everyone gets to see what's going on there. CRM and marketing automation, like I mentioned, the salespeople get the context. Beyond just seeing if I've opened an email, I can see engagement over time. You're going to see all the information about an individual, all the material that they've been sent, all the products, every single click that they've been clicking inside the email. So if you're sending a product catalog as a salesperson, I can really dive deep, understand how they're engaged. So that addresses that. There we go. And it gets you up to date information when they click the email. So it's not a situation where we're waiting on a nightly sync. We're not waiting for a weekly sync or, hey, what's the monthly report on our marketing campaigns? It's as a salesperson, as a marketer, those teams can have that closed loop between them. And we do that through integrating marketing automation and CRM out of the box. Um, Another thing that I always bring up that always comes up is the compliance factor. If someone opts out of an email and just says I don't want to be contacted by you again, that also goes to the salesperson. The salesperson can also check that box, and the marketer won't reach out. So you end up having this weird disparity of like, hey, I won't contact you again, our whole company won't contact you again. And that kind of that eliminates that idea of, hey, we're sending a bunch of emails, it's going straight to spam. They mark me as spam. We're breaking some compliance here. Overall, it just allows you to have a cleaner, without getting too technical here, just a cleaner domain when you do send these mass emails. Um, yeah, I'll keep going. CRM and desk, like I mentioned, a lot of people don't have context to essentially what happens in the sales side, on support, like I said, what products they purchase, what services, or even if a project or service is being supplied. Getting the status of something, if someone's making a complaint before it's even completed or delivered, this allows me to see what exactly happened. And I can say, hey, you know what? I'm support. It doesn't look like they're done. Let me have the project manager reach out to you. They can actually address this situation a little better than me. And it's not like I'm digging through desk and then opening a CRM tab and then digging through the CRM. I can view that from desk or the CRM very easily. For those of you that haven't used it since, not a lot of hints came up, CRM does allow you to use desk within it as a tab and marketing automation as a tab. So if you're in CRM, plug them in, let them rip. It's not like your UI will change and your users you can't really even tell a difference in what's going on. It just unlocks a lot of value there for folks. Leveraging the marketplace. We have phone integrations, marketing integrations like MailChimp. I know a lot of folks may not be using our applications like the hands has shown. And then we have e-commerce as well. So these are three different providers that are also available in the marketplace. It provides all the same functionality that the other, our integrated applications have. But if your tech stack doesn't have the ability to be agile and move to another Zoho product and enable that, they're always in the marketplace. The nice thing about telephony beyond it is that you still get auto dialing, you'll still get call logging, you'll still get the informational call pops within CRM. And that's an extension. So I know a lot of people are walking around this conference trying to look how Zoho can integrate, how they don't necessarily have to go out of the ecosystem. Always be aware of like, hey, this is your technology strategy. It's your software strategy and applying it to your organization. I'm pretty agnostic. So just keep in mind, CRM is agnostic as well. You can continue to use those. MailChimp and ActiveCampaign are two extensions within the marketplace that are also there. A lot of people ask us to create a custom integration on the solutions team. Oftentimes, it's because they didn't look. So I'm just here to let folks know you might be using these providers. You might be using even HubSpot for that matter. Don't kill me, Laura. I don't mention a competitor, but they're there and you can just plug it in, let it rip, and you're going to see all the same value that I mentioned previous. Um, Same thing with eSign, DocuSign, PandaDoc. We have Zoho Sign, but I'm not here to plug that. I'm here just to explain, hey, everything's on the table now. It's really great for the marketplace. And then the last one is Blue Root. So this is my transition from extensions to technical. If you have data flows back and forth, Blue is a really good extension to understand, hey, when something happens in this application, I need to do this over here. Or within the CRM, if this is going on, I need to live update data within the record, I can do that using the Blue Root extension. So beyond just having data from app to app, the extension in the marketplace also allows you to have a more technical perspective on, well, the data doesn't necessarily have to go to another application, but I need to do a logic layer within the CRM. And this extension takes care of that, which is really great. Like I mentioned before, and the first one was Shopify. The second most common that I deal with every day is WooCommerce. Those are the two main ones that occur. So anyway, here's the meat and potatoes of this, because this is where my knowledge comes from. I was just told to take it easy for the first 20 minutes of this. So everybody calm, everything's okay. All right, I'm about to go to the depths of the ocean. It's not going to be very fun. Um, I'm just kidding. So there's three different ways of integrating the CRM beyond what I just explained. A lot of times people will come to us and be like, hey, I like your default integration, or I like Shopify, but as it turns out, I have two Shopify stores. We run B2B and we run B2C. And that's a real pain in the butt because, as it turns out, you can only do one-to-one relationship there. Oftentimes, they also come to us and say, hey, there's data in desk and I just don't like the way it's displayed. Or there's data in CRM and I don't like it the way it's displayed. And I want to view it a little bit differently within my Zoho CRM. So that's where we get this, three different types of integrations. We're going to talk about the API, which is just data movement, right? It's just, hey, I need to take this, I need to put the address there. Maybe it's a one-way, maybe it's a two-way, but it's all programmatic on a data layer level, and you'll never ever see it after you set it up. There's also webhooks, which can work with Zoho Flow. We also support Zapier. Does anybody use Zapier in here? Nice. Okay. Well, shameless plug, we have Flow. Get off Zapier. Um, no, but there's webhooks. So you have a situation, and I'm sure you guys have used it. You can use Zapier and move data in and out. So a lot of the Zoho CRM does provide a lot of access and the capability of taking things in and out. And it doesn't have to be initiated from CRM. It can be through Zapier, which is really great. And then my shameless plug, Zoho Flow, for those that do not use Zapier and have tried to use default integrations and marketplace integrations, if you're really having a hard time leveraging it in a way that's useful for your organization, we have Zoho Flow. But for those who don't know, Zoho Flow is similar to Zapier. It adds a little bit more when it comes to using a UI to execute logic. It allows you to do a little bit more with data manipulation. So a lot of times, like I mentioned, people come to us, hey, I don't like the default one. It's a hot pile of garbage. Can you make one? Flow is usually the first attack. Hey, you might use Flow to move data. Oftentimes it's, hey, this is great. It's just raw data. But if you have a situation where, for example, quote to cash, you need to check a credit score and it's a third party, but you don't necessarily want to integrate CRM with the credit check, you effectively use Flow, and Flow can take the CRM quote, do a credit check, give it to Flow. Flow will do a credit check, run data logic, taking that payload, going to give, a yes or a no based on the value of the quote and the actual credit score, whatever it may be, and then pass it back to the CRM. And then the CRM can take it to books, or Flow can just be the bridge there and take it to books. So for those not familiar with Flow, it's a little bit easier to use than the first two. But keep in mind, if you're using Zapier, just keep using it. I don't mind. Flow's always there though. Um, so when we talk about scoping these custom integrations, it's always helpful to find the business objective. Like I mentioned, it's setting up a situation where it might not be, hey, I need to take the quote to cash. If you do that and you create a situation where your metric or your goal is just to eliminate the bridge between those apps, you have to measure that. So it's from a close. Don't forget, don't from the close. The objective of this business is to get paid faster. Make sure we have metrics. Make sure that based on the velocity of a close to cash, you're measuring that before the integration and after the integration, because you can actually see the value of your partner if Zoho has created that integration and if it's actually worth it for your business. The other thing you'll want to do in that process is understand detailed requirements. Typically, accounting and finance has so much compliance that it's a real challenge making sure that everything is executed properly. The reason I say that is because the worst state I've ever lived in for taxes has been Louisiana, for compliance. So there's a lot of nuance between each parish. And if it's understanding the boundary of the line, whether it's labor versus service, new build versus existing remodel, there's just a lot of stuff and, a lot of goofy stuff within certain industries to make that. So when you're asking someone to make a custom integration for you, you have to write out exactly what that is. The next step after you have the business use case or, that business analyst has put it into plain English is the data mapping and the flow. Typically we address that and I use these like just archaic sticky notes. What's the database? What are our fields? Scribble an arrow. Where are we going? It may be silly, but it'll make your life a lot easier if you're trying to conceptualize why am I integrating this application? Or you write all this down prior, this is usually the first step, and understand, is it out of the box? Is it a marketplace thing? Do I have to create another? Beyond that, when do I need it? When do I need the data? Is it on cash to close? Do I sync the customer only after we win the deal? Do I sync the customer immediately within our finance application? Sometimes accounting people don't like that because it's just a bunch of garbage data. Salespeople don't like it either because they see how many customers they converted but didn't actually close deals. That's another joke. No salespeople here. So yeah, just keep in mind these are just key criteria. We also sync frequency. How we take the data we have, and if it's one way into books, does it need to be two way? Does it need to be two way every day? Is it okay if we wait a week? What's the volume of data we're using? The reason I bring that up is because API limits and scalability. Oftentimes we like to say, "Oh, I need everything all the time every second." And it doesn't make sense a lot of the times because each team has a useful use case for that piece of information. So if you're constantly syncing every single update, every single modification between two platforms, that typically won't scale because you're just burning through API credits. For example, oftentimes a salesperson will say, like email, phone, that makes sense to be instant, but the total value or the total cost of the total acquisition cost of a customer, that doesn't make sense. So you have a situation where it's like, hey, I'll sync that data to CRM every week. And it does save a lot of headache for your partner or for the integrator or yourself of like, hey, why do I keep running into these limits? Or why do I keep having this server timeout? Why does this happen? It happens quite often. So then we address it through having the ability of going, okay, well, you technically don't need it. So all of these things cascade. I would do them in this order. It makes it very easy. So if you hit a limit within the marketplace or out of the box, you can say, okay, I know exactly how to do this. I can give this somebody else and they can do it, or I can take a stab at it. So let's get into the weeds. So our CRM API is very robust. And what I mean by that is it allows you to do a lot of things to data, different CRUD operations to data, read, write, update, whatever. It allows you to do it in a JSON payload. So these are just, tips you can take to the vendor if you want to get it integrated, but it allows you to do it in a way that's everyone's agreed upon this. Everyone, not everyone, there's a few that are left behind, but a lot of people agree JSON's the way to go, CRUD's the way to go, make it restful. It's awesome, it's great. So it is very extensible in that way where you can do literally anything to the stuff in the CRM, and CRM can request that to another provider as well. It's supported both ways, which is really great. So if you all of a sudden have a walled garden in your CRM, keep in mind, it's not my fault. You guys have all these access to these tools. The last thing is scope. And I always bring it up because it's a security issue. Are there any IT folks here? A few, perfect. So oftentimes, I encounter hey, I want this data. I want all the data. And it's always a salesperson. Always a salesperson like, oh, I want everything all the time. Whatever, dude, not my problem. And so, but that's the thing is like a salesperson will come with that requirement. And oftentimes they'll go through the process of this and they'll go ahead and do the scope and they'll check all these boxes, which allows you to read financial information, marketing information, sales, like all the information in your CRM. And it could contain PII data. It could contain any HIPAA compliance data. So you really want to make sure at the very end, after you've identified what are we doing to the data, what's the structure of the data, I've authenticated these two platforms, what's my scope? For example, if you're, like I mentioned, handling financial data and pushing things, doing credit check, you don't want to allow someone to do this is where it gets technical, Zoho CRM dot modules dot deals dot all. That gives you access to everything in the deals module. You may actually want to allow them to do deals dot read. And then at that point, you'd go in and you'd change the permissions to only allow them to read like email, phone, name, things like that. That way, the integration itself only moves that data while you, the IT folks, can control, hey, I'll make another scope specifically for the integration to the credit provider using these same functions. That's why I mentioned that there. It's oftentimes a mistake we make because during testing, it's like, I'm just going to do all of it, going to do settings at all. And then we get in ourselves into a compliance issue within Zoho's API. Now, when it comes to using our API, like I mentioned, the checklist, rates and limits, understand what you're doing, understand how much you need, understand if we can support it. We're very generous in how many APIs, like allowances and credits we give, but it's always good to know. Also, check the version. Fun fact, version 8 came out like 2 days ago. So I deleted off my slide, version 7, my example. So version 8's out now. So be aware of what version you're using. For those of you that are continuously maintaining these integrations, we typically update once every year. We support all the way to V4, but right now it's V8. Since most of you said you don't have an integration, just use V8. So anyway, keep that in mind. Like I mentioned, scopes and permissions. The data format is critical when doing these integrations. If you don't format it correctly, or you're receiving it from somebody in XML, or the actual JSON structure is different than CRM, you're going to have to transform it prior to getting it into your CRM. And then the biggest thing is we have documentation and SDKs. So anyway, we have our documentation SDKs. What that allows you to do is see everything that I've talked about thus far and get a more technical understanding. So now that we understand like the business use case, we can now apply it using those. Now the SDKs are a package that I really like because you download them and you can run them client side or server side, and it's got all the functions and commands you may need to perform everything I just said. So you don't necessarily have to create the webhook. You can just run a uh, server side application and move data. If you already have, another provider, I'll shamelessly plug Catalyst. You can run it there, and all it is move in and out. And the SDKs just allow you to do that. So you scope it up, pick what attributes you want from the SDK, whether it's writing to the leads module, reading from the deals module, updating the accounts module, whatever it may be. Let it rip. Really great. So we give you that. Now, when it comes to the webhooks, like I mentioned, those are more real time. In fact, they're real time all the time. They're outbound from the CRM. Most people forget that they're there. They're hidden away. They trigger from an external system, so you can request us to do something and then give data out, which is great. Usually, people use this in a situation like I mentioned of like, hey, I need a piece of data and I don't want to go searching for it in this application. So I'm just going to move it. And it's move on request. So if, like I mentioned, you have a widget in desk, you don't necessarily need the data to be permanently synced in desk. Feel free to hook in, grab it, pull it out, view it. When I go to my next ticket, it's gone. So that's something to keep in mind using those webhooks. And then my webhook checklist. So webhooks, yeah. So webhooks, like I mentioned. Oh, David, you don't have to go get it. I was just messing around. I'll get it after. Okay, thanks, man. Anyway, we like to have fun here. I like to have fun. Anyway, the endpoint of the target system is critical because typically a webhook, you can do two different types of payloads. So it's always good to define where am I going? What am I getting? The method's also critical. A lot of people will make a webhook in CRM and not realize like it defaults to post. I think it defaults to post or get, I can't remember. So you're in a situation, I only have 10 minutes. So you're in a situation where it's like, oh, I set this up and it doesn't work. So keep that in mind. The auth type is critical as well. We use auth 2.0, but a lot of different vendors use, I believe, like client-side credentials still, or special key as well. So just keep in mind, these are the settings we're gonna have to talk about. And then that payload, when you make it into CRM, you pick exactly what data you're sending. Like I mentioned, it's just part of compliance. Keep it in mind. What are we doing here? But also the data format. I mentioned that because I don't know how dates work yet. I've been here for 10 years. And it's just the biggest pain. So again, look at how integers are being sent. Make sure your dates are formatted in both systems correctly, or it's ready to receive it, whether it's epoch time or whatever. And that's there. So who knows what epoch time is? All right, I am deep in the ocean and I lost you guys. All right, so let me bring it back up. I figured that'd be the case. Zoho Flow is our no-code tool, similar to Zapier. Actually, I think it's more robust than Zapier. Our no-code tool is essentially, I want a source app, which would be CRM or QuickBooks Online, or even QuickBooks Desktop. I have that app. I want to define the request, which would be get me the account. It gives me the account payload. So on the UI, I won't demo it because I know you guys are probably tired of looking at demos. I'm way more entertaining. But anyway, you get the data. You decide, do you want to do deluge logic on it, which is, do I want to parse out, again, lifetime value of the customer, when I get all my sales orders and load the sum of the value of my invoices into the CRM from QuickBooks? Or do I want to load the actual invoices? So it's just a choice you kind of have to make. Deluge allows you to make that choice and not risk moving any full financial data into CRM in that specific case, but still allows you to pick, like, I need my contacts and, maybe the 5 most recent invoices and stuff like that. The connections are very easy because I say we, the Flow team, but I'll take credit. We set up different security connections for each provider. So all the stuff that I just talked about down here with scoping and all that junk, you don't even have to think about it because you're essentially, based on your use case, we get it. So if you're saying, hey, I want to get this module in QuickBooks, we request that specific scope from QuickBooks. So your compliance is already resolved. We also take care of the transport, secure connection between applications. So again, if you're just foraying into it and just going to move data, Flow and Zapier are great. We do it all. The last thing is being able to do it quickly. So typically, like a soap integration takes us, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks to set that up and make it run flawlessly for my team. Using like a servo catalyst thing takes me about a week. Flow takes me like an hour. I still scope it for 8 hours. No, I'm just kidding. But it takes about an hour. So it just allows you to say, hey, I want this, I want it here, I want to do this, and I want to push it to any application. Now that library, I know I mentioned like 3 applications in our Zoho One suite and then 3 in the marketplace. This has more than I can count. I think over 900 different cloud application providers of the most common, including like best of breed. So you're going to have HubSpot there. You're going to have a really, really good library of, hey, I actually don't want to engage a partner. I don't want to engage Zach's team. Let's go ahead and just make it in Flow. But anyway, my Flow checklist, very similar to the other ones. Understand where you want the data and when you want it to go around. Understand what applications you're using. Double check that it's there. It's so easy to do. You can just say, hey, can I do this? And Flow will tell you. On-prem versus cloud. We do support on-premise databases and applications. So those of you that may struggle right now trying to connect on-premise stuff, take a quick peek at it. Understand polling frequency. That essentially alludes to what I mentioned earlier. Are we in sales? Or are we in IT? Are we doing everything all the time? Or are we doing it once every week? The other thing I mentioned is task and plan limitations. As per usual, the more you want to do, the more you have to pay me. But you just have to be aware, like, hey, I just need this. And the last two essentially coincide with each other of like, hey, I may have a limitation on the amount of data or how many times I can do it. So maybe I'll modify my plan and do it every night or every 3 days or every week. Those go two hand in hand, but it's just good to be aware, within the flow checklist. So, like I mentioned, we have native integrations within Zoho One. I know people raise their hand, but no one was using my 3 favorites. So keep that in mind. We have plenty of marketplace extensions, and then that third one, the custom integrations, like our APIs, Zoho Flow, and our webhooks are the 3 easiest ways that I've found to move data in and out and the quickest to use for organizations. And then, like I mentioned, that actually takes, I know I got into the weeds there, but bring it all the way back out to the front. It allows us to take the information from each application and enable our salespeople to be more effective and have more context. I'm not going to sell something to someone who's not paying us. That doesn't make sense. allows our support people to see information from the CRM to understand, oh, they asked me about this product. As it turns out, they have this stack of products and they bought that 2 years ago. So then I know, oh, it's a 2-year-old version of whatever. Have you updated something? Or again, just gives me context and ways to troubleshoot. And then our marketers understand, hey, I fed you 500 leads. These are all my touch points. Did you close the deal? And then your salespeople can actually see that information as well. It works both sides, right? The other people, the salespeople can see, oh, they've been bombarding them for 9 months and not even a single email open or click. I don't care about that person. I want someone to give me money. So anyway, but yeah, so it kind of brings it all together. When you move this data in and out, it touches multiple teams within your organization and allows you to create a cohesive customer experience where everybody who talks or talks to that customer, it feels like they know what's going on. And it makes the customer feel like, oh, this isn't a random person. I don't have to explain myself every single time I get transferred. So
Okay, then I think we can welcome or thank Zach if